Okay, hi guys. From the article, I explained components, and I'll just be doing a small tutorial on what a variant is and variant groups basically, and I'll just be explaining components here as well. And I'll be using auto layouts for some of these things. Although, if you haven't used auto layout before, I should have worked on an article on that first. Now that I think about it, I'll probably do that. So I said components help you um, reuse elements while working in Figma. So that this is a Figma page. So first off, I'm going to create a button using auto layout. So we just have button here. Try zooming in. Okay, so we have button. Can make that like 16, right? Regular. I think guys okay. Enter. Let's work poppins fonts. So you could make this a add auto layouts like this, or you could just press Shift A. So now we've added our auto layout. Mind you, you don't really need to add an auto layout to create a component. It just makes your design like much more neat. So I would change the values of this. Now, if you updated your Figma, you notice that Figma has changed how the auto layout settings are, which is actually cooler than it was before. So I've had up by 24 and then the sides by 16. Yeah. Okay. So this is our button so far. And I'm going to just select the color from our default colors for our frame. So I'm going to add a fill. I'm going to add blue. Let's just use blue. Figma's blue. Yeah. So we have a button. I'm not really sure I like how this is looking so far. So I'll just make another edit. Maybe it's 24. Make it 16. Yeah, this looks better. And yeah, so we have our button now, and we could just make a little edit to the corners, maybe round them by 4 if you want, depending on how project you're working on. So we have this auto layout. So we have this button. I have our auto layout. I think we could make the line height about okay, it's 18. Let's make the font size 16. That's just for the purpose of this. It is for okay, I guess that works. And I'm going to add an icon. So material design icon. Let's add an icon, material design icon. So just before that come up. So we have our material design icon. This is a plugin. Let's just add any icon. Let's say arrow. Yeah. Okay, so forward arrow. Yeah, so we have this. Then we just drag it into our auto layout. Now you see that it automatically adjusts with the side of the button. That's the fun of auto layout. Then we can change our color to white. I think can yeah, I think can use this. You could also have a button in front. I think we should actually have another button in front, just so we can have various parameters. So now we've duplicated this button using Command D or Control D, depending on what you have. Oh, sorry, it's not Command D. That's my error. Yeah, Command D or Control D, depending on what if you're using a Windows or a Mac, or you could just hold down your control and then drag to duplicate this. So I'm going to move this front. The reason I'm doing this is because of the kind of components we are going to create. So you'd understand why I made it like this as we move forward. So we have this now. So I'm going to turn this to a component. So turn this to a component. We have this here that creates components. But before we do that, I would want to create duplicates of this. So I'm just going to do hold the frame and Command D. Before we do that, we could just rename it to button, so we don't have to do that again over and over. So we can rename this to button. Sorry, I don't really maybe a lot of my stuff I'm trying to these days. So yeah, we created three versions of this. Just have this here. And then turn it to components. And we come here, you highlight everything here, and return this to a component as well. So return this to a component, create multiple components. You see a drop down here, create multiple components. And when you move to your right, you see other components combined as variants. So this is a variant. And a tip for this is to add another layout to your variant. So the more you create variants, they are arranged better that way. So let's just add an auto layout. So I'm going to use Shift A. So you see auto layout added, and I'm just going to change the padding between top and bottom to, let's give it at 20. 20 is fine. All right. So the next thing I'm now going to explain why I created three different versions of this button. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to add another variant. So now we have an icon in front, an icon at the back. So we can have three different versions of this particular button. And I'm going to explain how. So I'm going to explain how now. So when you remove this icon, the button automatically becomes smaller. And when you remove the other icon, the button is just without an icon. Yeah. So I'm going to create three different versions of this particular form. So I'm going to have this. We're going to have one with the button in front. So we could just delete it, but it doesn't really delete it. It just um hides it. So now we have three different types of buttons. One that doesn't have an icon, one with a button, one with an icon in front, one with an icon behind. So when you select the button, get a prompt here that says some variants have the same property values. Apply, change this. So we are going to change that. We're going to, depending on what we have here, we're going to change it. So select conflicting variants. So the first property that we have here, which is this one, let's make this a button. So this button is just no, this is the default button. Or we could just call it primary because it's like primary button. Then we have this one. So this is not a default button. So we are going to add, we're going to rename this. We're going to change it from default to icon left. I'm going to change this from variant 3 to icon right. So when you click on that, you see that you don't have that error anymore. You just have three different buttons. So I'm going to just like a slight test run. So when you come to your assets here, you have the button that you created, the original default button. So this is your default button here. When you add it to your file, so you have like a primary button, the icon left, or with the icon at the right. Should we do one with two icons? You could add an extra one with two icons if you want. So this is just like the first version of this. So from here, it becomes quite easy because you've already done the first like iteration or the first version of how the buttons will look. So I'm just going to select this, select everything and duplicate them with Command D. So we've created another duplicate of all those buttons, and now we have two different types of buttons now. But we are going to change the colors of some. So we are going to try secondary. Yeah, I'm going to try another color. So we just select second buttons, and then we could change the color from blue to let's see, red. Let's do red for now. Oh, sorry, let's do a gray color. So it's kind of like inactive. Great. Okay, so we have our gray buttons here, and we want to change this from button 6 to secondary. So this is secondary defaults. This is not button 5 anymore. You come here and change it to icon left, or you could just say secondary icon left. Yeah, this is my left arm. Secondary icon left. Sorry. And then you could have secondary icon right. Now, one thing you need to note is when you're working with variants, the name matters because you're working with components generally, their name matters because you're going to be working on a very large file and you don't want to mix things up. So when you come here, this has already updated, or this should have updated. Let's see. Yeah, so we have different forms of buttons. You have one left icon, the one with right icon, the one with left, secondary buttons. So we could just easily switch that if you want. So now I'm going to, so you could still do all that. So now I'm going to talk a bit on what I like to call a binary variant. I'm going to talk a bit on a binary variant. So the binary variant just gives you two options, which are yes or no. So in terms of that, you can't have like three, can't have more than three, can't have up to three actually. So let me explain. So I'm going to create another button. Let's try a different type of button this time. So I'm going to create a selector sort of. I'm going to call this. Sorry, I'm going to call this. Let's make the height 40. Make the width something like 120. Yeah, so we're going to call this. And we can just duplicate this command D and select, then have like a perfect circle. Okay, so we have that. Now notice that I didn't use auto layout to create this. I mean, I can, but I'm just trying to. I'm not really doing it through auto layout, so I'm just trying to um put out the basics here. So I want this to be. This is going to be my off state. So I'm going to make this ash, and I'm going to make this like dark. It's a very dark color. Then this is going to be my on state. I think I can reduce the length of this a bit. Let's make it 100. Yeah, I think that's fine. And I'm going to create like an on state. All right. Okay, so the on state should be lighter. Sorry, like this blue that I have here. So let's just pick another blue. Let's use white. Just use any. You can use any colors you want. So we highlight all this, and then we come back here and we create multiple components. Sorry, mistake there. So I need to put this in the frame first. I need to put this in the frame. Sorry, I'm flashing that stuff. So I need to put that in. I need to put them in the frame so that they won't be like rectangle and something else to be like another rectangle. Yeah, so putting them in a frame. So this frame two, this frame one, and then combine as variants. Say layout and 20. Not necessarily do this all the time, but it's kind of cool to have it on there. Okay, so for this state, this is property one. So let's rename this from property one to what do we call this? We don't want to call it button. Let's call it the switch. Yeah, switch. Switch. I can call this off, and then call this a switch. Call this on. So now when you go to your assets menu, you have like another component. Let's call this component switch instead. Yeah. Let's name this switch. I really need to work on my name. So you notice that there are only two options here and come here. So unlike the button where you have multiple drop downs, where you have multiple drop downs of secondary, right, primary, and all of that stuff. Here for the switch, you only have two options, which is on and off. On and off. Oh, it even looks similar to what we did. Let's change the color to what they have right there. So I really hope this helps. There are so many other ways you can explore components and variants, and it's something that if you know, you will be able to make like a ton of reusable designs across your system. And yeah, do you also have? So now this is a component from here, and an instance. Rather than creating instances of this button and then editing that, editing it, you can just create ton of these and then easily switch them depending on what you want to do. So an instance would be duplicate. Sorry. So this is still a main component. So when you have variants like that, it still works as a main component. But when you duplicate just one, you get in that instance. So this is not a main component, this is main component here. So let's see. Let me do drama. So if I change this here, it changes in the instance, but you see that it leaves all this same. Same thing here to this. So you see that these ones they don't change because these are all separate components. Yeah, so I think that covers most of what I was going to teach. I think I'm going to do like a small tutorial article around. So you see, I changed the instance, but it didn't affect the main component. So I need to come here and edit this. Although there's a way you could actually change this to affect this. So you see, if you come up here, you see this button that says reset all changes. So this reset all changes, what it does is just goes back to the default anyways. So there's another way that you could have an instance change a component, main component. So when you right click and you come down here, you see main component. So you see push changes to main component. So it has put the changes here. I hope this helps really. I hope you had fun doing this. I hope you guys explore and do a lot of stuff on your own. So just let me know what you think. Thank you very, very much for sticking around. Yeah. So I would probably work on something else for maybe auto layout as time goes on, depending. But I had fun doing this. I should do this more often. Thank you.